Geometry dash. Let me just rephrase that. Geometry dash. That's right, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between. We are diving headfirst into a game that has created more conflicts than every Roman war, while also having a community with more law than federal parliament. I'd introduce you to Geometry Dash, but it's Geometry Dash. So... Oh my god! Aaron, what the hell? What the
Please upload this.
And so, since we just had our last event level button mashes, I figured now would be prime time to rank them all. I'll be considering the music, gameplay, decoration, and theming with this list. If you disagree with my placement, we'll fight to the death, and whoever wins has the correct opinion. So without further ado, count to 1,337, don't wake the big one, and let's get straight into ranking them. Look, I don't think Noel Electra is a bad level. By your base GD standards, it's great. But by god, does it do a lot of things pretty wrong. Before I get into the complaining though, I do want to bring up the definitive best part of the level for me, the vision. With the current state of GD literally being a game engine, it's becoming more and more easier to make levels that, while looking pretty good, have no personality. But Noel Electra has a ton of personality, and exciting ideas. This is the kind of level that I think of in my head when listening to a great piece of music. You start off by jumping out of a clock tower in this epic cutscene, then right on the top of this train. Then you get to fly through it, and eventually it goes into another cutscene. In this one, there are a bunch of little cube guys on the train, and they come to look out the window, only to see two trains colliding into each other. Then the rest of the level is surviving this really hectic environment, where you have to navigate past flying bits of wood and metal. Then the ending slows everything down again in this other great cutscene. Like, how cool is that? I'd play the absolute hell out of that level. The idea behind this carries a lot of the level, and I feel like this amount of originality is something that you rarely get, so I think we should celebrate that. Okay, I'm done celebrating. The bad part is literally everything else. I want to start off with the music, which is a lot of noises, that's for sure. I get that a lot of people like it, and I can totally understand that, it packs one hell of a punch, but get hit with that punch enough times and all you're left with is a headache. The music fits the mayhem and the energy of the level, and it's okay to listen to, but the complete lack of melody in these parts just rubs me the wrong way. Now onto the decoration, which I don't like. It's a weird blend of realistic, but also just using the base objects in the editor, and also for some reason it's blurry. I just don't like looking at this, which really sucks because it's clear that a lot of hard work was put into it. Also, it has a bunch of Coast to Mountain Easter eggs, which is fine, I suppose, but Coast to Mountain? Really? I know it's the first legendary level and you made it, Punch, but people don't like Coast to Mountain. You basically invented half of GD and you pick Coast to Mountain? You've made at least 15 cooler levels. And the best part about all of this is that the gameplay doesn't fare much better. In fact, it doesn't fare better at all. The camera controls are really haphazard, the constant illogical unspoken direction changes just make what you're playing feel like the game playing it for you, and half of this is just all buffering. At least it matches the music, I guess, but that's kind of a given when you're being thrown around the screen with invisible gravity changes every 2 seconds and don't have any time to read. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, it doesn't actively screw you over, but I just don't get how you'd enjoy this. I reckon I'll just stick to watching the showcases. Geometry sure as hell is a level. It has jumps, decoration, even music to seal the deal. None of it is very good, but it definitely is there. I know a lot of people would put Geometry as their least favorite event level, but honestly, Noel Electra just did more stuff wrong in my eyes. This is just not great generally. The music is pretty okay, the decoration is a little messy, the gameplay is a little inconsistent. When first playing it, I thought it was a real improvement over back on Dash, but after time has passed, I've realized that it isn't anywhere near as effective. The main thing that I do like about this level is how happy it is. The song was made by Tobu and Diviners, both of which have a very upbeat style of music, the kind of stuff that you'd hear in an image compilation video. Alongside this, the level has a bright yellow color scheme and fireworks are scattered all throughout the drop, showing player faces and great particle use. The fireworks are probably my favorite part of the level, but the reason that this happiness works really well is because this was the second ever event level. The idea was still exciting, it felt like we had just been given our first big feature since the release of 2.2 11 months ago. I like how this level leans into that excited feeling. But the level isn't great. The biggest problem I have with the level is that the gameplay can be pretty frustrating to read. The sideways section was a bit off-putting, which sucks because I usually love these sections, and you aren't given much time to react in this final cube section. And this specific jump messed me up so many times that it just stopped being fun. Like I said before, the decoration is nice, but the glow kind of blurs the background, which didn't work great for me, and the background feels disappointingly static. I do like the city theming though. I get a bit conflicted with Boogie, because on the one hand I don't feel like we should be celebrating films in Geometry Dash. They're incredibly impressive, but the product isn't any different than something you'd make on actual editing software. Also, GD is a game that I feel should be played. If we're getting to the point where the most impressive things in the game are borderline unrelated, then it's not the game I thought it was. But on the other hand, I think we should celebrate these levels because they are now a part of the game's culture. Breaking the pre-established rules of what is and isn't possible with a couple of spikes, blocks, and a move trigger is something that we as a community are rightfully fond of, because they are incredibly difficult to make. So you can see how this one was pretty difficult to rank. However, in the end, I figured that no matter how impressive it is, I don't want to play the level. I get a better experience on YouTube where I can pause the video, go frame by frame, and fully appreciate the work put in. In order to enjoy the level, I have to not play it. That's not a great sign, and I'm sorry to say that I'm not going to enjoy a level that reminds me that GD is only impressive now if it's pretending to be something else. But with all that out of the way, the level is very impressive. I could quite literally never be able to do this if I dedicated my life to it. I do some kind of analysis here, but you can see what's on screen, it's insane! This level was made by the same guy that made Busted, so you can see they have a real knack for both art and meme culture. I did really enjoy going through the level slowly, finding as many background gags as I could, so props for that. Overall, this is a stupidly impressive level, even if it fills me with a dread for the future. With Back on Dash, we have officially passed the line into great levels. I think this is a fantastic level, and the only reason it's on the lower end is because there are others that I just find more fun. The first thing I want to mention are the visuals, which I think are amazing. Audio Visual has a great simplistic visual style that is such a relief from the more is more mentality that both Noel Electra and Geometry subscribe to. There are so many great designs, the color scheme is fantastic, and all of this is accessible on a playthrough because it isn't crowded at all. You don't have to watch a video in order to really enjoy the level, which is absolutely ideal. I love the style that this level has, and it's clear that Audio Visual has a giant passion for making these levels. In terms of gameplay, it's alright. This isn't a remake of Back on Track, so the variety is pretty limited, but even this just doesn't do all too much for me. While the level has a great use of new decoration and 2.2 features, it doesn't do anything all too unique with the new ways of playing the game. That's not to say that any of it's bad, but it's all just buffering orbs and jumping to platforms. Finally, I think the music is pretty good. I like how they got DJ VI back, and while this certainly isn't one of my absolute favourites from him, it's still a nice enough song. I don't have a whole lot to say about this level, but I can't think of anything that negative, so great job! Cheat Codes is a level with a great song, great visuals, and great gameplay, even if it is absolutely 9 stars. The song was made by Tokyo Machine, who have a great dubstep track record, so it was great to see them here. The song goes really hard with some great intensity and a vocal line which definitely grew on me. This is probably one of the main tracks that I listen to outside of the game, so all good on that front. The decoration is a little generic, but still really good. Every building, sign, UFO, and spaceship is super clean, readable, and immersive. These alien creature things are really awesome, especially this guy used in the boss fight. I could imagine this would be the kind of guy that I'd want to make when I first got into this game. The gameplay is okay, but it is where my gripes start. The biggest offender is this boss fight. The level tells you exactly where to go through this ship icon, which really dampens a fair bit of the fun. I don't feel good getting through this section because it feels more like the game is playing it for me. It's definitely possible to have readable boss fights, just look at Sender Game. And everything else is just kind of fine. I like the sync at the start here, it gets me ready for the level, but by the time you reach the ending where everything's exploding, the sync just makes things feel easier than they need to. Overall, this is a great, well-made level which I enjoy playing, even if it doesn't nerf itself past the point of fun. Duckstep was originally one of the lowest levels on this list, and I'm not entirely sure why. When I first played the level, I think I was just in the mood for something fun, which I'm sorry to say, this isn't particularly. There's almost no sync at all, the drop is disappointingly slow, and there are multiple parts that aren't that fun to read. The gameplay in this level really isn't my thing, especially considering that when watching the level, it looks completely fine. Only when you actually get the ship sections with almost no variety or the spammy cube gameplay will you realize that this wasn't particularly made to be played. I do like this part though. Anyways, with all that rambling out of the way, everything about this level is absolutely amazing. The visuals are super engaging and colourful, the song is another hit by both Temonite and Shine, and the theming is really endearing. There are so many little background details and hidden lore that makes this level really fun to look at. Like how there are 2 different duck species, the yellow ones and the white ones, and they seem to have different levels of power. How this giant robot is being powered by another duck. These red arrows pointing towards the player almost to say, "Oh my goodness, look at what is happening over there!" It's really fun and builds an exciting world that I enjoy being a part of. And all of this is done with absolutely no visual flaws. This probably has my second favorite decoration out of all of the NCS album levels. Everything about it looks exactly like an animated short film, which I'd say is even more impressive than Boogie. The backgrounds are all really satisfying, the ducks are all really cute, and the metal framework is oddly a feast for the eyes. All backed up by the track, which took me a couple listens to appreciate, but by god do I love it now. It's really funky, exciting without being corny, and does things that other songs don't do. In this album there are a lot of songs that are aggressively happy, and a lot that are aggressively electronic, and this one walks a tight line between them with elegance. This level can't really be higher because I don't enjoy playing it too much, but man is this a fun show. Button Masher is the only Mythic event level, and I can understand why some people aren't too happy about it. I 100% agree that on its own, the level would have been pretty lucky to get Legendary, but as a celebration of the GD/NCS album, I think it's nice that we get to send it off with another Mythic. It's kind of a reward for getting through all of the levels, so I don't think that this getting Mythic is the worst thing in the world. Even if it is hopefully the worst Mythic level we get. But how about the level itself? I think it's really nice. I would say that the decoration in some sections isn't great, like near the start here or this kind of empty boss fight thing. Also, I have to go through this part in practice mode because it is so entirely unreadable. But those are the bad parts. The good parts are really good. Like this pixel section here with great use of depth and really satisfying design, or this super exciting arcade. I like how even when the decoration isn't great, it's clear that a lot of fun was had making it, so generally pretty good. Next up we got the gameplay, which is fine. I definitely prefer the first half of the level more than the second, because there's more sync and fast paced sections that require a fair bit of focus. I enjoy this backtracking part, it's just really cool to play. By the latter half it just gets a little in the air or doing what the level tells you to. Mash! Click! Click! Again, that's not the worst thing in the world, but it doesn't really stand out to me that much. However, the three things that make this level work are A, the theming, B, the song, and C, how the theming and song work together. Like I mentioned before, the level can be split up into two halves. The first one is in the arcade that's playing the level, and the second is exploring the arcade. On its own, this is a pretty good idea. Start off with a good level, then slam into some high energy world building. But when coupled with the song, this works insanely well. Button Mashers by NDK is a great track, I think we can all agree. It has a great melody line, wubstep is a sick genre, and it doesn't slow down for its entirety. However, the first minute of this song is melody based. This is the section where the level is completely normal. It sounds like a song in an arcade machine. However, as the song starts to get more chaotic, the level starts glitching and breaking down. Then, when the level is fully degraded and you're in the unfamiliar arcade environment, the song has fully become its sound effects. The song fits perfectly with the level's awesome theme, and it makes playing the level 5 times as engaging. So, great idea, sick level, could have been executed a little better, but it's the most Geometry Dash level on this list. Retrospective slaps so hard. I don't love the ending of the level, but if the entire thing were on the same level as the first minute or so, then this would have easily been third. I'll get to that ending in a second, but first I need to rant and rave. First up, I adore the decoration. It's visually distinct from the other good looking levels with the thin lines, dark color scheme and unique take on the electrical style. The way it all swells alongside the drop, the way that it matches the music throughout the entire thing, the fact that all of the backgrounds are super well designed. I love these mountains, I love these pulsing blocks, I love these cubes, I love that there is absolutely no clutter because the block design is simple. Don't even get me started on this final section, this level is a visual feast. I couldn't say a bad thing about the decoration if I tried. Another great part is the music. Retrospective has turned into one of my favorites from the album and an instant classic. When first giving it a listen, I thought it was a remix of one of the old NCS glitch up songs, one of those ones with tens of millions of views, because of how well it matched that vibe. It has a great melody, great use of instruments, and is super satisfying to listen to. I just think it fits great on its own, and it fits inside GD super well too. Finally, we get to the gameplay, which is the main thing holding this back. Once again, the first 70% is fine, nothing particularly special, I like this UFO part and don't love these awkward ship parts. But once we get to the last part, things start to fall apart. Look, I love direction changing, I think it's really underutilized in modern levels, but this is a good example of why they can be a bit of a curse. I find it really hard to read anything that goes on in this part, especially at the transition into it. There's so much movement, your icon is being flung left and right, and the screen moves all around the place, and that combines to make an ending that requires a lot more practice than everything before it. Again, I like everything else, and this final part could be great if you put in the effort. The only issue is that you didn't have to put in the effort for anything else. So overall, it's a fantastic level that looks amazing, but with a couple gameplay issues scattered about, taking it down just a peg or two. Also, this guideline is just completely incorrect. Citadel is probably the most unique event level, and it's carried by its gameplay. There are so many little gimmicks or sync sections or parts that take you all around the screen, and it never lets up with how fun it is. You always have to be in control of your icon, the game never takes the reins away from you, and I think a lot more recent levels should be taking notes from this. The best parts have got to be this wave section, the split screen part, and the part with all the spike balls. All of these are pretty standard gameplay, but spiced up through very subtle changes. The swing part forces you to predict where the ball is going to go, which adds on to the fact that swing is a very memorization based game mode. The wave section has a lot of low reaction time corridors and fits really well with the music. Oh, this split screen gimmick works 10 times as well as it should. I remember being a little skeptical about it when watching videos of it, but it forces you to not only read really far ahead, but also change your rhythm to fit the gap. It makes this otherwise boring gameplay super exciting and difficult. The gameplay in this is a great example of not only using new features to your advantage, but also being bug-free, and I really appreciate that. I also love the amount of style this level has. Boom Kitty always has pretty funky songs, and this one is no different. It gives a solid framework to build this level around, and Subwoofer used that to its highest potential. The castle has so many different rooms, so many different places to explore, and it feels rewarding getting through all of its gauntlets. Having it all end with this difficult sideways ship section showing you climbing up the tower was super fun and made it feel like all your efforts were worth it. All of the purple, pink and green corridors fit well into the level, and there's a general vibe of spookiness and evil throughout the entire thing that gets you pumped up. I don't love absolutely everything about the level. The biggest thing is that the decoration can feel a little messy at times, and on its own the song is nothing special, but I'm really happy that this level got legendary because of how enjoyable it is to go through. Ruins is probably one of the best looking levels in GD, and I do not say that lightly. This level was made by Gra, the same guy that made the NCS Gauntlet winner, Berserker, the same winner that won against 2 other mythic levels. His talent passes into this. The bright, futuristic imagery almost pops out of the screen, and when meshed with the ancient alien civilizations feels like you're falling deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole. Alongside this, the gameplay is really readable. It's incredibly clear what parts are structure and what parts aren't, and the jump indicators don't take anything out of the world building. Like, that's absolutely insane. Oh, and also, this bulging background with the pixelated fires might be in my top 5 favorite background graphics in the entire game. Just as good as all of that, the energy is really exciting thanks in no small part to the fantastic rhythm in the song. It feels dark and mysterious and really dangerous once you realize how in over your head you are, like this part with the ancient sculpture behind you. Not only does it use its laser eyes to break apart the level in a cool low gravity way, but it's also holding your balls, your ball icon in its hands. Not a base icon with your player 1 and 2 color, your actual chosen ball icon using some kind of jewel bug. I love this level so much. It's genuinely so good. Now I'll be frank, the gameplay is a little boring. This level is more exciting to watch than to play because there aren't a whole lot of inputs to make. But if this level had fixed that, it would have pretty easily been number 1. Honestly, if this level had more sync-based learning gameplay, something like a nerfed Layak, I'd be campaigning for Mythic. I want to say more about this, but you can see what's on screen. In a way, it feels a little wrong for this level to beat levels that have better gameplay, but then the beat drops, my jaw follows suit, and I realize that it earned its spot. Next, we got Skyline Part 2. First thing I want to bring up is that I think the visuals are really interesting. At a first glance, I'd say I'm not the biggest fan of them, but now that I've gotten used to it, I've kind of fallen in love with them. I still don't like this subway and staircase part, but everything else builds a world. The buildings always look fantastic, whether they're the glinting ones at the start, the blurry ones at the drop, or the detailed ones at the end. They just fit in the level. One of the things that was missing in geometry was the life of the city. It felt less like you were in a new world of exploration and more like city.jpg. Meanwhile, this level has other people living in there and unique architecture for different buildings. Alongside this, there are parts of the level where the background will become static, or there'll be music visualizers and particles going in rhythm to the music. And while you might think that would mess with the city theming, instead it just reminds what you're here for, an NCS Geometry Dash level. And with everything that they've added on, that idea becomes so happy and exciting, and good lord I adore the world building in this level. It's so aggressively the best of both worlds. Alongside this, the gameplay is fantastic. It's nothing all that special for the first half, but by the time the drop comes along, it is insanely satisfying. These mini-wave sections are so satisfying to get through, and this ship at the end perfectly encapsulates a final stretch. I like how it's a fair bit sync-based, but you still have to stay focused in order to beat it. For that first half gameplay, it's nothing bad. I didn't find any issues, it just stood out to me a fair bit less than everything else. I do enjoy this wave and ship section though, very satisfying. Finally, the song is really good. It's basically a better version of Geometry. You know what? This entire level is Geometry if it was really, really good. The song is really catchy, has a great melody line, and builds up super well. This entire level actively makes me feel really happy. Playing it, listening to it, watching it. It's a perfect Geometry Dash level, and I really hope people continue to remember it now that the album is over. So, you may be asking yourself, if this is the perfect level, how is there one better than it? Well, this upcoming one holds a very special place in my heart, more so than any others could. So, let's get into it. Look, I'll be frank, a lot of levels probably should have beaten Backstreet Boy. Ruins definitely looks better, Skyline Part 2 is more of a solid level, hell, even Citadel does more interesting stuff than this one. This is definitely high up there, but you could easily argue that it'd be 3rd or 4th. I enjoy the music, but I also enjoy a lot of the other music. I think the visuals are pretty great, probably some of the best in the album, but it doesn't beat Ruins or Duckstep. I think the gameplay is so really high up there, but it probably doesn't beat Skyline Part 2 or Citadel. But this level has one thing the others don't. A soul. The others have personality, identity, heck, even worlds to explore. But Backstreet Boy is realistically the only one where I don't have to take a mental note every time I find something I like in order to enjoy the level. It's so refreshing to have something that just creates a good-looking, relaxing experience that uses all of the tools it has to better the level. I don't dislike anything about Backstreet Boy. Every gimmick is satisfying, every visual fits with the music, and the whole thing just comes together to make a truly great level. Now, I could go throughout all of this and point out every single detail that I like, something that I really want to do, but I know that that wouldn't improve the level. You can see what's on screen, you can experience the level yourself. What are you really going to get out of me pointing it all out? So instead of doing all of that, I'm just going to say fantastic work, Zeroa, and leave it at that. Well, that was my ranking. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, since I could pretty easily see many different opinions on the matter. My list had a lot of reworkings, and even at the end of it, I wouldn't call Noel Electra and Backstreet Boy that far off quality-wise, especially not compared to some of my other lists. The album managed to keep a very consistent level of quality, and I'm super happy to say that it was a total success. We managed to get 7 well-deserved legendaries, 1 undeserved mythic, and no real drama to spawn from it, so it is a miracle by GD standards. Oh, and while I can, I may as well do a bullet song ranking. This is an album after all. So, here's a quick ranking of all the GD NCS album music. 12. Boogie. Overall pretty boring, repetitive, and has a weird level of energy, but pleasant enough. 11. Noel Electra. Has too little melody for my tastes, but in the right mood it hits pretty hard. 10. Geometry. I like how happy it is and how NCS it feels, even if it is aggressively generic. 9. Back on Dash. It has good instrumentals and a great drop, though the swing rhythm is pretty forced and it's just a little less notable than the upcoming ones. 8. Citadel. Very good, don't get me wrong, but it's far less interesting than the upcoming songs. It's kind of just a really nice beat. 7. Cheat Codes. Very listenable, that let's go let's roll bit goes really hard, but the drop falls a little flat. 6. Ruins. Like Noel Electra, you need to be in the right headspace, but I think it's one of the best when in that headspace. Unfortunately, it isn't the most effective when not. 5. Button Masher. Gets a little chaotic and the melody takes a fair bit to get used to. Once you're used to it though, the song goes super hard and it's a great finish to the album. 4. Duckstep. Funkalicious. Could have been a bit higher energy, but it has a great rhythm to it and I always enjoy Temanite collabs. 3. Retrospective. Shockingly amazing. Super happy, feels like an NCS song without being too generic, and has a great use of the glitch hop style. 2. Skyline Part 2. Basically everything I said with Retrospective, but there are good lyrics. Just barely beat it out. 1. Backstreet Boy. No issues, really satisfying to listen to, great lyrics, fantastic, catchy melody line. The kind of music you listen to block out all other noise. So, there you go. I'm pretty glad I found an excuse to talk about GD, as it has changed me as a person time and time again. I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse, but... actually it's definitely for the worse, but I'm having a lot of fun, so no, I won't go to recent tab rehab. So, that's about all I have to say. Thanks for watching up to this point, and I hope you enjoyed it. But now that we're done, try jumping, the spikes are the bad ones, cue the outro music.